Didn't see you there. Huh. Well, now that I have your attention, I don't even have anything in store for today. I'm not even thinking about things this morning. I guess I kind of was. I did have a thing I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, it was the cobbler thing. Interesting. I mean, animation is something that just fascinates me. Like, how do you animate something so that it goes with music? Right? How do you do that? Like, to think that you're drawing out, especially back in the like early, like when they first figured it out, it's even more strange to think like that's like the first thing they figured out. The first thing they figured out how to do was animate things to match music. It seems like that would be difficult. That would be, I don't know, it just seems like that would be something that you wouldn't just figure out, especially when you look at like how poor animation kind of was. To think that they were so bad at it in some regards, but to be able to do it to synchronize to music. And I know a lot of times like people will say, oh no, they synchronized the music to the end. No, they didn't. They had to, they like, especially when they use like famous songs or whatever. Like I was watching this cobbler thing, because apparently in a lot of old cartoons, the idea of the shoe cobbler getting sick or something happening, and little gremlin troll whatever, they show up to do all the work for him. That's actually like a common thing, and you got to wonder like where did that narrative come from? Why is that such a popular narrative? Seems weird. Little gremlins show up and build all your shoes for you. But this one is a musical, and it's there's a lot of hammering involved. There's one point where they're making where the cobbler is making a leather shoe that, those leather male shoes that have all the little holes in them, the decorative wingtip type shoes, but they have the decorative holes in them. And the song that they're doing is that that song, that famous, I don't know what the fuck it's called. But it's like it's one of the more complicated musical melodies, and it's easily one of the more complicated animation parts, and they're adding the little holes to go with the music. And they're like making all these holes, like all that. How do you figure that out so easily? When you look at, I mean, the whole idea of that's where the whole idea of the Cabbage Patch and all that shit comes from, right? Like, the first movies and all that. Well, the first movies that we actually have access to, right? Like, is we're only getting, a lot of the movie, like the early movie that the Cabbage Patch movie. If you haven't seen it, you don't know what I'm talking about. The channel Mind Unveiled is a really, really phenomenal channel, and if you're not subscribed to them, you should be. But they're like pioneers in this whole Cabbage Patch. Like they're the first people I saw talking about it. And they do this video about their very first movie made, and it's a really fucked up movie, and they're real. I don't know, Mind Unveiled. I almost wonder at this point if they've been if they've been corrupted. Because the content, the material that they used to put out was not only a lot better, but there was a lot more of it. Like these guys, at one point, these guys put out like a 10-hour documentary about the Cabbage Patch, about their territory. And it's a phenomenal watch. It's one of those ones where even after 10 hours, you're like, fuck, it's over. It's so good. And since then, they've just been putting out like, oh, this new movie came out, and I want to review this movie. It's weird, or it just seems like something is different about them. And they just like all of the channels that are allowed to have tons of subscribers and, all that stuff, even though they're truthers and they're supposedly telling secrets, as long as they don't, they seem to be okay. And that sort of seems to be the common thread amongst everything. You can be a truther all day. You can actually live a really good life if you're an Alex Jones, a David Icke, a David Wilcox, the guys that put out Vaxxed, Burroughs, what's his name? Fuck, I can't remember his name right now. But like these guys, the people that made Vaxxed, they live really, really well. I mean, RFK it made Vaxxed. RFK made Vaxxed, and now he's best buddies with Trump. And it's literally like, it makes sense to me now why what happened. Because I was actually, like, my band was supposed to do the soundtrack for the second Vaxxed movie. The what's his name? Burroughs, the main guy. God, I can't remember his name right now. Something Burroughs. He and I talked through Facebook, and I sent him our original song called Vaxxed, and he was like, "Oh, this is fucking great, man. If we ever decide to do a second part, I want you guys to do the soundtrack." And I was like, "Sweet, that's great." And he's like, "Well, it's in the works, so just sort of be ready. I'm gonna call you guys, and we're gonna get this, or I'm gonna set this up." And I was like, "Awesome, let's do that." Brian Burroughs, that's his name. Brian Burroughs. And he I didn't hear from him for a while. And I took it with a grain of salt, obviously. But he when Vax 2 came out, I reached out and I was like, "Hey man, I thought you said we could do the soundtrack." And he was like, "Yeah, well, if you watched it, you'll see we didn't actually go with any songs with words in them. We purposefully went with instrumental songs, and I know I said you could, but I can't remember what it was. But he was like, "Yeah, man, no, blah blah blah." So we talked, and I said, "Well, if can we make?" Because I wanted to make. I made 2 songs for Vax Part 2, obviously. I said, "Can we use some of the footage from the movie to make videos for our song?" And he was like, "I'll do you one better. How about you send me the song and I'll do the video. I'll put it together." And I was like, "That's amazing. Thank you. Like, awesome." Like, I couldn't believe it was happening. And so we made the 2 songs, sent them over to him, and he picked the one he wanted. And we said, I said, we'll hold these back. We'll release them at the same time. So we'll hold the other one back until you're ready, and then, we'll have a 2-parter there. And he was like, "Great." This was in like November, December of 2019. And so we make the songs, send it to it, blah blah blah. He he starts he's dragging his feet, and he's and I'm talking to him like every week or so, because I mean, again, I should be talking to him every week. He has one of my songs. He's supposed to be doing a video, blah 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 blah, and this is a huge opportunity for me. Plus, I know that, and I know I'm the B side of the equation, so I have to be like, no, man, it's okay, yeah, okay, whatever, you know. So, if it really sucked, because if we would have been able to put those songs out in December or even January, we would have looked like prophets. Because the songs Vaxxed Part 2 and Vaxxed Part 2 Part 2, they basically predict COVID. They predict COVID, they predict the lockdown and all that shit. Like, it's eerie. And I also, like, I was leery from the beginning, because as soon as Robert Kennedy was involved, I have to question the legitimacy. He's a Kennedy, you know. I love how people that have never supposedly been here somehow know my name. It's weird. But so a year. I mean, this goes on for an entire year, where every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, he's telling me, "Oh yeah, man, you know, I'm really sorry. Some more stuff came up. I'm just really busy. Oh, I got this, but hey, you know what? I'm gonna wrap this up in a couple of days, and I'll get right with you. And I'll get right with you." And if I didn't, I knew it was his page. Like, I knew it was actually him. But, you know, I mean, again, you start to sort of kind of wonder. And then the year mark came around. And it was now December of 2020. And he's like, "Yeah, man, I'm so fucking sorry. I know I've been dragging this on for so long. You know, I'm going to get this done in the new year. I promise. By the way, you know what? Because I've been such a dick, here's $150. Buy something nice for your kids." And I was like, you know what? Like, as far as apologies go, and like, okay, you know what? I'll take that. That's fine. So come January, when again he's doing like, I'm not hearing back from him and stuff, I just said fuck it. And I had probably sunk my own ship earlier in the year, when I had mentioned, you know, I had talked about it. I mean, it's hard to trust a Kennedy no matter how you slice it. Like, do you guys know how the Kennedys got their fortune? You know what? Let's do that today. That's a good one. Let's look into the Kennedys. Because for anybody to trust a Kennedy is like, you have to, you're like, I'll vote for Trump dumb if you trust a Kennedy. You know, that's how bad it is. But once I was just like, you know what, fuck this guy, fuck this shit. We put out our version of Vax, said fuck all of it. Didn't hear from him anymore. He got mad. So let's start with Joe Kennedy. Well, Joseph Kennedy. Hey-oh. Jesus Christ. Joseph Kennedy Sr. All right, let's see what the official sort of narrative says. Joseph Patrick Kennedy Sr., born September 6th, 1888. Died November 18th, 1969. It's an old man. Was an American businessman, inventor, philanthropist, and a politician. See, by now the polymaths are starting to, like, we don't have, he's not an inventor, engineer, electrician, painter. He's only, a businessman, an inventor, a philanthropist, and a politician, which is all easily, you could easily be those things. He is known for his political prominence as well as that of his children and was patriarch of the Kennedy family, which included John F. Kennedy, Attorney General, and Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and longtime Senator Ted Kennedy. I guess we're leaving out Bobby Kennedy Jr. on that, huh? Let's see. 44th United States Ambassador to the United Kingdom from 38 to 40 under President Roosevelt, preceded by Robert Worth Bingham, and succeeded by John Gilbert Winant. He was the first chair of the U.S. Maritime Commission from April 37 to February 38 under Franklin Roosevelt. He established the position. He was also the first chair of the U.S. Secretaries and Exchange Commission. Ooh, that gets a little strange, doesn't it? From June of 34 to September of 35. He also established that position. Died at 81. He was a Democrat. His spouse was Rose Fitzgerald. His children are Joseph Jr., dead, died in the war. John, Rosemary, Kathleen, Eunice, Patricia, Robert, Jean, and Edward, Ted. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 kids. I can't imagine a woman being pregnant 9 times. I mean, it's got to be a good, if you're really irresponsible, like 15 years of your life is pregnancy. Right? And that's like probably like the shortest amount of time you could probably pop out that many kids. 9 kids. Like that's you getting pregnant every 9 months or so. That's you popping out a kid and getting pregnant right away. That's just insane. That's insane. Joseph Jr. was born in 1915 and Edward was born in 1932. So just about 18 years. So one every 2 years, basically. Kennedy was born into a political family in oh wait, this is a different Kennedy. No, this is Joseph Pete. I thought he was poor. Was born into a political family in East Boston, Massachusetts. He made a large fortune as a stock and commodity market investor and later rolled over his proceeds by dedicating a substantial amount of his wealth into investment-grade real estate and a wide range of privately controlled businesses across the United States. That is a lot of words to really not say much. And I thought a lot of the Kennedy fortune came through prohibition and illegally running liquor. It's kind of crazy to think like amount of his wealth into investment grade real estate. Think about how, like back then, at least according to our narrative, like a lot of it was just there, and you just were like, okay, I own this now, and that was that. Let's see. Oh, this is going to get good. During World War I, he was an assistant general manager of a Boston area Bethlehem Steel Shipyard. He was an assistant general manager of a Boston area Bethlehem Steel Shipyard. Were there multi Bethlehem Steel Shipyards? Through that position, he became acquainted with Franklin D. Roosevelt, who was the Assistant Secretary of the Navy. Boy, that's amazing. It's an amazing coincidence that just happened to work out that way. I mean, again, it's like you'll put your 2024 spin on things, but you don't think about this is the 1920s. Like how difficult was communication back then? They make it seem like it was super easy. And places like New York had pneumatic tube systems running underground to deliver the mail. Again, we don't think about it, but the mail system, especially back in the day, and in a time like New York when you don't have cars, you apparently the mailman is parking his horse and carriage on the side of the road and then grabbing, because the sorting facility had sorted out all the different, like, just think about that. But apparently in New York, they had a pneumatic tunnel system throughout the whole city that would deliver mail everywhere. Why haven't you heard about that? Why isn't that something we all know about? And I mean, it's like you look at old cartoons from the 20s, 30s, and shit. And isn't it strange how much like pneumatic tubes were a big thing in those cartoons? How many times you've seen Jerry or Tom get stuck in a tunnel on a tube and taken someplace they didn't want to go, and like that's real, and it's really weird that it's again it's kind of like Tartaria, where it's this real life place and society that controlled a large portion of the world for a long time. The Rosicrucians, I mean, I know I'd heard the name Rosicrucian at some point in my life, but I never learned anything about them in school. Did you? Did you learn anything about that shit? I learned all about all about how special the Jays are and how sad the whole Hall of Hoax narrative is, and how I'm supposed to, overlook everything Israel does nowadays because of what happened to those poor people in World War II. Bullshit. I know every single year I went to school, it would be like, okay, we're gonna do our World War II lesson for the next month, and everybody be like, oh, not again.
You have your head stuck in the handle.
That's gonna be funny when she tries to run. In the 1920s, Kennedy made huge profits by reorganizing and refinancing several Hollywood studios. I mean, come on, guys. You think the guy that spends all the money and is given all the power to be able to reorganize and refinance Hollywood studios has no say over what they put out? Several acquisitions were ultimately merged into Radio Keith Oprah RKO Studios. RKO out of nowhere. Kennedy increased his fortune with distribution rights for Scotch whiskey. I mean, isn't it funny how, like, my whole life I thought Scotch was a thing. I didn't realize Scotch was the name of something. I literally just now learned that Scotch isn't its own thing. Like, I thought Scotch and whiskey and vodka, like, I thought Scotch was its own thing. Scotch is a brand name. What the fuck? I mean, for such an alcoholic like myself, you'd think I'd know that shit. Because I'm such an alcoholic. Then again, I don't drink.
You prefer crack and meth.
Well, that, and I wouldn't drink Scotch. Isn't Scotch like high-end, expensive? Yeah, right. I prefer the 5 o'clock. And the bottom, the plastic bottle stuff. Yeah, buddy. Plastic liters. He owned the largest privately owned building in the country, Chicago's Merchandise Mart. Now I just have to look into this. Holy shit. Holy shit. That is just what? So let's read this real quick bullshit history we're going to get on this amazing building without any fucking construction pictures or anything. The Merchandise Mart, or the Merch Mart, or the Mart, is a commercial building in downtown Chicago, Illinois. When it opened in 1930, it was the world's largest building. It opened in 1930. So the people prior to 1930 were capable of building this thing. Let's see how long it took for them to build. I can't wait to hear this. Oh, scusa-ma. Scusa-ma. And again, I'm sure there's tons and tons of construction video. I mean, by the 1920s, we were pretty capable of recording things. We were pretty capable of taking pictures and making videos. So the idea that there wouldn't be a video would just be insulting. I mean, again, if it was built in the 30s now, or in the 20s. Now, if any of you, I already know how this is going to work, but if any of you have relatives that were construction workers on this project, I'd love to hear from you, because I know all of you have a grandfather or an uncle that worked on submarines and built them. So I would love to hear from somebody that was part of the construction. And really, they'd be pretty fucking old. You know? Literally nobody would be alive today that would have been in the construction of this building in the 20s. Well, I was actually 7. My grandfather was 7 years old, and he was working on the. Yeah, no, actually, my grandfather was there. The Art Deco. Oh wait. It was the world's largest building with 4 million square feet of floor space. 4 million square feet. And look at its location. Right? Just right there. What a convenient location to be able to build a 4 million square foot building on. The Art Deco structure is at the junction of the Chicago River's branches. The building is a leading retailing and wholesale location, hosting 20,000 visitors and tenants daily in the late 2000s. You're starting to figure it out, aren't you? All right. Completed in 1930. It just says, construction. Construction started. Come on, what's your guess? How long do you think it took them to build this building, this 4 million square foot building, in 1920s?
9 months.
Well, that.
Just going by the bridges and.
Right.
You know.
You're wrong. That's ridiculous. 9 months. Construction started in August 16th, 1928. And it was completed in 1930. So it's I mean, let's be reasonable. 9 months. No, it's like 15 months. Do you think we could do that today? Do you think we could build a 4 million square foot building out of marble and all intricate and you know, and again, I'd love, we're going to get into the construction of it. At least what they'll let us. But to think that, like, you're going to hear these. It has imported marble from this place or that place. It'll be interesting if it's the same Vanderbilt builders and all that. We'll see. Opened on May 5th, 1930. So it had to be completed before May 5th. April, I mean, that's 4 months. So from August, mid-August to I don't know when a building gets complete, how long it takes for a building to be completed before it gets to be opened. I would assume there's a whole bunch of other things that have to be done before the building's construction being completed, but then you still have to move in all the tenants. Everybody has to, decorate and design things, and you have to lease all the space. I mean, it's interesting. It's just interesting.
What's going on? You realizing you're stuck?
Built by Marshall Field and Company, and later owned for half a century by the Kennedy family. Can you imagine? Like, you own this building. You didn't have to build it. You own this building and you collect the rent from 4 million square feet. I mean, what kind of profits are those every year? And it's one of these old school buildings, so it doesn't require a bunch of maintenance to keep it up. Trying to reset the comments. Looks like the comments have been shut down again. Unless you guys can, I don't know. Can you guys comment? I don't know. The Mart centralizes Chicago's wholesale goods businesses by consolidating architectural and interior design vendors and trades under a single roof. It has become home, she figured that out. It has become home to several enterprises, including the shops at the Mart, the Chicago campus of the Illinois Institute of Art, Motorola Mobility, the Granger. Oh, okay, we still have it. Cool, still have comments. The Granger, I'm just used to not seeing, I'm used to seeing a bunch of nonsense rolling through, so. And the Chicago Tech Startup Center, 1871. The Chicago Tech Startup Center, 1871, is the one of those things that isn't blue. I can't click on that one. It was sold in January 1998 to Vornado Realty Trust. The merchandise mart is so large that it had its own zip code until 2008, when the Postal Service assigned the zip code to part of the surrounding area. In 2010, the building opened its design center showrooms to the public. History, construction, and... Oh yeah, here's one of those famous 1929 construction photos. That's totally real. Wow. Wow. In 1926, a westward extension of double-deck Wacker Drive. Does that even sound like I'm saying something? A westward extension of double-deck Wacker Drive increased development on the South River bank. Double-deck Wacker Drive? What the fuck is that? Wacker Drive. Hang on. Can you talk for a minute? Please.
Yeah.
You want to read Wacker Drive? That's easy.
It's Wacker. It's a major multi-level street in Chicago, running along the south side of the main branch and the east side of the south branch of the Chicago River in the Loop. The vast majority of the street is double-decked. The upper level is intended for regular street-level traffic, and the lower level for service vehicles, deliveries, waste collection, utility access, and through traffic. It is sometimes cited as a precursor to the freeway, though when it was built, the idea was that pleasure vehicles would use the upper level. Since it follows the curving path of the Chicago River, Lower Wacker Drive is the only street in the city that adopts both north, south, and east-west designations in certain areas. There is a third level of Wacker Drive, often known as Lower Wacker Drive or Sub-Lower Wacker Drive. This additional layer is primarily used for towing and impounding vehicles, utility infrastructure, and rail access in some areas. The street is named after early 20th century Chicago businessman and city planner Charles H. Wacker. So then they show some pictures. Upper Wacker Drive looking west from Michigan Avenue, which is right there. Then they show Wacker Drive is highlighted in red. That's the area that it traverses from Printers Row over to Lakeshore East. Inauguration was in 1926. It is 2.2 miles long. I read the whole thing and showed pictures. Here you go.
Thanks, G.
Yep.
All right, hang on.
Where'd the other two go? One, two, three. Fourth one. Oh, I need more those.
Sorry, guys. All right, sorry. All right. Gotta make that money, man. Ugh. Gotta blow out all that cocaine and meth. 'Cause that's what you do when you snort drugs. Right. All right. Okay. So what was it? What's Wacker Drive?
It's a multi-level road. The top part's supposed to be for pleasure vehicles.
It's a multi-level road?
Yes. The second level, the lower level is supposed to be for utilities,
What?
deliveries, impounding, blah, blah, blah. And then the lower level is supposed to be for like infrastructure, repairs, rail access.
In 1909, architects Daniel Burnham and Edward H. Bennett drew up a plan for the Commercial Club of Chicago to unify the city's urban design and increase its physical beautification. That's interesting. The improvement of traffic flow in Chicago was a major part of the plan. You know, because all those traffic jams of horse-drawn carriages and shit.
Yes, I know it's touching you.
I mean, seriously, what are we talking about traffic-wise in 1909? Well, in prior to 1909, because they're drawing up these plans to solve the issue. So the issue had to be a growing one. The improvement of the traffic flow in Chicago, among its many recommendations was a double-decked roadway along the river. intended to relieve the congestion at River Street and Rush, where 50% of the city's
It was like the beginning ideas of the freeway or whatever.
all right, let's see. 50% of the city's north-south traffic crossed the Chicago River. Charles H. Wacker, chairman of the Chicago Plan Commission, pushed the idea. All three levels of Wacker Drive east of Columbus, including a ramp between the upper and lower middle levels. This was built in 1909, I don't think Chicago is talked about enough. How the fuck did they do all of this? All of these buildings and shit. Oh, barking at the garbage.
Have you seen him?
Look at these. Look at. Wah. He doesn't talk because he doesn't want to talk to the trolls. Who knows? I might see what you're saying. Funny. That old ass beginner set of golf clubs finally sold. It's been up forever, but it's trash. You know, it's otherwise it's trash. Why do you believe submarines aren't real? Well, go look at parts 1 through 9. I think I make a pretty compelling argument. The original double-decker road replacing South Water and River Streets was completed in 1926 at a cost of $8 million and named after Charles Wacker. The 1926 section stretched from Lake Street to Michigan Ave, the latter of which was also rebuilt into a 2-level road. So I guess it's not as crazy to think. I mean, we're talking about 1926. By 1926, we were like, I mean, think about that. Think about what your head tells you 1926 looked like. You know, think about, I mean, other than the buildings that we were so capable of building, think about like the cars and the no planes and the, you know, I mean, it's fucking nuts. It's fucking nuts to think about, you know, what we're supposed to be. What? I mean, again, I find Chicago to be fascinating. Do you know, Chicago, I can't do it without looking it up. But the square footage of Chicago is like, say it's 300,000 square feet. I mean, Feel like I can't do it without fucking doing it right, so I might as well just fucking do it. All right, let's see. Chicago. Can I find the square footage? Okay. So it's 227 square miles. We'll say 228. So 228 square miles into feet. That is 100,000. That's 6,356,200 or 6,356,275,200 square feet. So we're going to call it 6,036,000,000 feet. Okay. 6,036,000,000. All right. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, okay. So that's 6,036,000,000 square feet. Okay. When they say an inch of rain fell over Chicago, right? An inch of rain, a square foot inch of rain is a gallon. Works out to be a gallon. A square foot, 1 inch deep liquid is a gallon. So that weighs 6 pounds, right? A gallon weighs 6 pounds. So 6,036,000,000 times 6 pounds equals 38,160,000,000 pounds of water fell over the city. That's just 1 inch of rain. That's 38 billion pounds of water. Yeah, we'll just call it 38. 38 billion pounds of water was floating up in the sky. Just floating. Just floating around, waiting for whatever the trigger was to start the rain to fall. And then it fell. 38 billion pounds of water. Isn't it kind of strange when you think about it like that? What was I looking up? Chicago. Yeah, but how did I get there? What was the first thing I looked up? Can't. Damn. There was a building. It was the
That big square building?
yeah,
Kennedy?
that's how I got there. Oh yeah, Kennedy's is how I got there. Okay. Yeah, you left the dogs outside. I don't care. Stop it! Big dumb dog. Come on, let's go. The FEMA camps. Scary shit, man. It's crazy that more people don't understand that shit's real. You know, all those Mexican kids being held in cages. It doesn't matter when it's Mexicans, but when it's Americans, I'm sure you'll have an issue with it. So, we started with Joseph Kennedy. That's where we started with. Joseph Kennedy. Joseph Kennedy Sr. All right, and we had gotten to the Merchandise Mart. And we had gotten to Whacker Drive. And we were at the history of Whacker Drive. I just thought that was interesting to think about. Think about like 38 billion pounds of water has to be dealt with every time it rains in Chicago, an inch over Chicago. That's just 1 inch. I mean, what happens when it rains 2-3 inches? That's huge. We're getting into the trillion at 3 inches. And these cities were built to not only withstand that, but to deal with that. To funnel it into where it needs to go so it can be processed or whatever. Whacker Drive and all that, that all has to be built to accommodate all of that rain, all that snow. It's really weird. All right. An extension south. So this is me looking up the history of this building. There's literally no construction shit anywhere. They yada yada over the shit. An extension south to Congress Parkway and Harrison Street was built between 1948 and 54. So in 1948, it took 6 years to build the extension. Yet, I mean, think about that. It takes 6 years to build an extension on a road, but it took like 15 months to build a 4 million square foot building. That makes sense to you? That sounds reasonable? You know, and again, the road and all that was built after the building. The building was built by you know, inferior technology, inferior, you know, everything. So they could build a road in 6 years and a building, a 4 million square foot building, in just in like 15 months. And remember, these buildings are not like shit buildings we see today. You know, just steel and glass. These buildings are, the very tops of these buildings are carved and intricate. You know, every you go inside the building and from head to toe, it's just insane. Like you look at buildings we make today, and it's like taupe walls and the you know, the panel ceilings that are, you know, that corkboard shit. And yet back in the day, they were like, no, the ceilings need to be fucking vaulted in marble and have to be, you know, you have to carve a bunch of designs into them. There has to be all sorts of shit all up and down the walls. Everything has to be as pretty as it possibly can. Especially the buildings that we plan on destroying in a few years. It's crazy because there are so many things that I've looked up over time that I've forgotten the names of and shit. And I would love to be able to look those back up again, but I love you guys. His conspiracy is everything. It's everything to you. You come here every day, sit here for hours, trying to get me to pay attention to you. I must be doing something right, huh? Like, I get your attention and I don't even address you. You know? You'll watch me talk about whatever. I don't even have to be talking to you and you still watch me. What does that say about me and you, huh? Kind of interesting. Seems a bit obsessive. Especially since you hate me and disagree with everything I say, but you want to sit here and listen to me say it, go right ahead. I feel like I'm the direct D of Truther. That dude's awesome. That dude's awesome. The way he does things is awesome. I gotta give him all sorts of credit. Press NH now, that another guy that really does great work. You know, the only thing, see again, it's like the only problem I have with the First Amendment auditors and shit like that is, first of all, it creates division between the people and the police on both sides. The police hate it, and the people see how the police treat people, and they end up hating the police more. And that sucks because we need the police. You know, when the time comes, we need the people that are trained to use firearms to not round us all up and to help us to fight against those that are trying to round us up.
Did I show you this? 12-year-old?
Who, you?
No, a 12-year-old did this.
Oh.
Here locally for Karen. Bluey's her favorite character.
I don't know who Bluey is.
I think he's from Blue's Clues, isn't he? I don't know. I don't know this cartoon.
I don't know.
But, yeah. She's gonna love it.
I don't even need to read. Somebody said, I watch you. I don't even need to read what it is. You watch me is all that matters, and you just keep doing it, okay? Those that are watching, like, share, sub, do all that. Help out. You know how that shit works. Everybody says it because it's fucking true, so fucking do it. Notice how I never ask you guys for donations. None of that shit, do I? I actually tell you go get the free download. You can put money in it if you want to, absolutely. But not only do you get money donating to me, you actually get something for it, so. www.the-bilderberg, B-I-L-D-E-R, Kyle got it.
Dave got it.
Dave got it. B-I-L-D-E-R-B-E-R-G group.com. The link will be in the description after the fact. Seems like if I put it in there beforehand, it tanks the video, so.
Yeah, I came upstairs. She was hugging it.
Kicking it, yeah.
Kicking it and biting it. It was everywhere.
Yeah, she sucks. Extensions east were built in 1963 and 1975, with the latter taking it to Lakeshore Drive and the new lower level starting at Stetson Avenue. At the time, Lakeshore Drive had an S-curve at the river, running where Wacker now goes between Field Boulevard and current Lakeshore Drive. The S-curve was on a viaduct over the Illinois Central Railroad's rail yard. I mean, you think about this. Like, they're talking about how they're replacing this stuff. So this stuff had been here. I mean, it's just so wild. This construction that we were capable of doing. The current alignment of Lakeshore Drive was finished in 1986, and in 1987, Middle Wacker was extended to meet the new alignment. The ramps to bring upper traffic down had already been built. Upper has been dead-ended where it used to end at Lakeshore Drive. Okay, I just don't care. Like, that's the construction, I guess. Okay, here's gallery. Here's two aerial views in 1926. Okay, so this is a picture of 1926 Chicago. Look at the river. How did they do all that? This is 1926. And they're somehow able to tame the river, shape the river. I'm sorry, I was a boy. I was a boy who played out in the woods and in the rivers and you know, would make forts and shit all the time. And like, water is so powerful. Water is the most powerful force on earth. And to think, like, I mean, this is Chicago. Chicago gets the lake effect snow, so they get winters worse than a lot of places in the United States. These guys were doing concrete construction. I mean, I guess how were they making the channel? How did they do that? How did they make all of the sides and all the wall? But then look at the fucking buildings in the background, and of course you get the vanilla skies, and you get the vanilla pictures. I mean, fucking A. But like, think about how stupid you have to be. All the trolls that are on my page right now. Think about how stupid you have to be to look at pictures from 1926 that show giant skyscrapers and a Chicago River that's been completely tamed, and that just makes sense to you. Whether you believe in Jesus, God, whether you believe in Islam, Muslim, Muhammad, all that bullshit, you know, whether you believe you run out and get your vaccine every time you're told. My brother-in-law, you run out and get your vaccine every time you're told. You believe 9/11 happened just the way they said it did. You know, you think Trump actually got really lucky that he didn't get killed with that shooter, because that was real. Whatever it is, you look at those pictures from 1926 and you just think, yeah, fuck yeah, why couldn't we build that? I mean, how tall do you think that one skyscraper is? This building in the foreground has like three floor bottom floor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And maybe 13, 14 stories. And then this huge ass, like 6, 7 story top, right? So that we're talking about at least 200 feet in the air. How tall are these two buildings in the background, and what the fuck are they? Is that the Empire State Building or the Sears? No, because we're in this Chicago. It's not New York. So what buildings are all of these? Look at this one in the foreground here. Look how tall this building is. Who built all these? Chicago's fascinating. Like, Chicago makes Detroit look like Detroit. I know when I took the bus one time across the country, and the stop before we got to Detroit was in Chicago, at the major bus terminal in Chicago. And I had like an hour or two in between my bus rides or whatever. And I actually happened to run into somebody I knew when I was there, and we went out and we smoked a joint outside the bus terminal. Like it's Chicago, 3 a.m. We're out, and like it was fucking crazy. But I remember looking around and just thinking how much cleaner Chicago was.
That's pretty much any city.
And then we were right there along one of these paths. The bus terminal is somewhere right around there. And so we walked over one of those bridges that goes over the river right there. And I just remember looking and just thinking like this is just incredible. It's fucking incredible. And of course, these buildings, all this style of buildings, well, every city has this exact same kind of architecture. All supposedly built in the late 18s, early 19s. I mean, thousands and thousands of buildings. Who the fuck was building these? And it's not like they all have the same, you know. Like, a lot of them have the same construction companies, but then a lot of them are, like, you know, the government held a contest to see who could design a building, and some random guy designed it, and there's no construction company, there's no real details, there's no photos. You just believe what you're told, right? Look at this. Wacker Drive, downtown Chicago. Look at that.
Yeah, that's the multi-level road.
Right, look at it. All the stone. So then you look at this and you think, okay, so here's a modern day, here are the modern day buildings. And then here, look at the difference in the architecture. Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's crazy. It's just fucking crazy. And then you have to think, like, again, we're talking about Chicago. All these buildings have huge basements. All the city has all these tunnels. You know, all the railroad stuff, all the electrical stuff, all the air. You know, I mean, one of the more famous old photos is a chick standing over one of those grates and her dress getting blown up, like Marilyn Monroe style. But that's a old picture. Marilyn was just remaking that old picture. But who the fuck is building all these? Who gives a fuck? These are grates in the middle of sidewalks. And so obviously this shit goes way down. So how are they building all of those underground facilities and all that shit? I mean, again, we're talking 1800s. I just don't accept that. And of course, you know, again, there's no construction photos. Nobody decided to take any pictures of them constructing this unprecedented double-decker fucking road what? Nobody thought to document that? That doesn't seem reasonable to me. I know I'm supposed to believe what I'm told, but when I'm told is when what I'm told is fucking stupid, why would I ever believe that shit? All right. Again, here's the construction of the Merchandise Mart in 1929. Basically a full building, a vanilla sky, and where are all the buildings that are supposedly behind it? I mean, this is 29. Chicago's a monster city by now, so where are all the buildings in the background? Clearly, this is an edited picture. I mean, but at least with this one, they're not claiming like with the what is it? With the Lincoln Memorial? Yeah, the Lincoln Memorial, where they built up one side of it and then the other side of it. They didn't build it uniformly. At least this time they're saying they were building it uniformly, which at least makes sense. But seriously, there should be all sorts of buildings behind this picture. Behind this building. What are we talking about? This is from the lake. This building is on the corner, and this is from the corner view, right? You're looking at the corner. So behind it is Chicago. Where is Chicago? I mean, you have a couple of buildings here on the side, I guess, but and again, you might not like me, you might not agree with me, you might whatever, but this makes sense to you? Like this doesn't go beyond your stupid, weird, hateful obsession? You know, I know a lot of the pedos don't like me, and I know the Jays don't like me. I don't expect to get your support, no matter what I'm talking about. I don't want your support. But the rest of you, seriously, just put it all down. Where the fuck is Chicago in this picture? Explain it. Make me stupid. Tell me why I'm stupid, please. In 1927, who poured the cement for the pyramid? I don't even get into pyramids. The pyramids, do you guys realize the pyramids and the Sphinx were lost to the world? They were rediscovered in the like 1800s or something. What the fuck do you mean they were rediscovered? How did those things disappear? How does the Sphinx get covered in sand like it did? But even though it was the Sphinx was mostly buried, the pyramids weren't. So how the fuck did they get lost to history for all those years? You know, it's like the ChatGPT narrative. They forgot to make that connection. So then they just tried to fix it and be like, oh, well, it was just lost. That's why it's not mentioned. That's why people weren't talking about these amazing pyramids throughout all of history. They were just lost for a while. It's crazy. It's fucking crazy. Explain the Mayan pyramids. Well, and again, it's not like history is full of people just totally in awe of these Mayan structures and shit. And like, how the fuck, you know, how did you guys build this and all that? Nope. They were savages who had human sacrifices, and they needed that white man Christianity to civilize them because, wow, she hasn't lost any weight. The new mom. She looks bigger, actually. Wow. Wow, that's crazy. In 1927, Marshall Field and Company announced its plans to build on the north bank opposite Wacker Drive. Right, because what was there beforehand? Or was destroyed because anything other than stacked blocks sinks or falls over? I mean, do you guys think that the new buildings that they make now, that have no design and all that shit, do you really think they're going to be here 100, 200 years from now? Without requiring a bunch of maintenance, they're just still going strong. And I mean, again, people aren't going to think about it. But the building, you know, designing these buildings, you have to account for the weight. These structures made of marble and all this incredible rock, they hold themselves up throughout eternity, along with all of the people and all the shit that gets put inside them and all of the rain that, you know. I mean, you have to do something about the rain. You can't just let it sit there and eat away at your shit. So you had to do something to account for the wall. I mean, it's just nuts.
Nothing you could have done then. Nothing. But now, with me, you can make a difference. I bet if you hear a song once, you can instantly play it. Right? Yeah. It's just like that. I know you can do it.
He was yelling at her.
Sorry.
Told him to get out. Threatened to call the cops. That's when he started to fight. And then he punched her. He punched her hard.
Sorry. Greek architecture, for example, were they built to last or to be taken down when deemed unsafe? I don't know. I mean, I don't believe what they're saying. See, I don't know if you're new here or not, but for me, I subscribe to the idea that there have been resets, and that shit like this whole narrative that I'm reading now just doesn't make sense. Something else has to have happened for Chicago to have been built. And so when I understand that resets happened, I then it basically just eliminates history for me, because everything before the reset is bullshit, and everything after the reset is bullshit because they don't talk about the reset. So when we start talking about ancient Greeks and all that stuff, I don't fucking know. I don't know what that is. I don't know. Greeks were kicking ass 2,000 years ago and all. I just don't buy that shit. I don't buy that we have, scriptures and shit that somehow survived 2,000 years written on some papyrus, or, some sort of cloth or whatever. I love when people use me pacing as an excuse. I'm not smart enough to come up with anything to say, so I'm just gonna I'm just gonna blame it on him pacing. It's your fault because you're moving. I can't watch videos where things are moving. Come on now. If it wasn't that, then you'd find some other excuse. Your hair is too long. I don't like that you have chops. I don't like the way your face is shaved. Oh, are you smoking? Oh, again. If you want a way out, you'll find it. And that's why we live in this fucked up society that doesn't think about resets. Because people want to believe in stupid nonsense like gee whiz. Seriously, dude, you need to take your medication. I know. What a crazy motherfucker reading about history. Oh my God. How dare you read about stuff? I can't read. I don't like when other people read. Fucking ridiculous. God, it's embarrassing. I wish I had better trolls, better opposition. It's fucking ridiculous. All right. The site bordered by Ocean Street, Wells Street, Kinsey Street, and the Chicago Road was formerly a Native American trading post. That big 4 million square foot building was on the site of a Native American trading post. And the site of the Chicago and Northwestern Railway's former Wells Street Station. The Wells Street Station was there. That's fucking wild, man. I want to see this Wells Street Station. Oh, here we go. No actual pictures. We just have to go with a postcard. Circa 1910. So, fucking seriously. I mean, the people pictured, they built this? Get the fuck out of here. This is 1910. Look at all the people on their horses and their wagons and shit. Wow, is that fucking ridiculous? What is this? Is this an actual picture? And so, let's see. What the fuck is that picture from? Okay. Chicago. This is circa 1900. This is from 1900. So by 1900, I mean, this building looks like it's falling apart, doesn't it? So by 1900, this building is so old it's falling apart. Look at this. A horse-drawn bus. Or like, look at these things. Horses are pulling those through the muddy streets of Chicago full of fucking horse shit and dead fucking horses and... Are we serious here? The first the first station at Wells Street was built by the Galena and Chicago Union Railroad. You gotta love how those railroad companies were also really good at building buildings. They could lay railroads, build all the bridges and shit necessary to make railroads work, tunnel through fucking rock. Do you not ever think about how ridiculous that is? That in the 1800s, something like that, I don't even know when, they were capable of building tunnels through mountains. Why do you accept that? Why do you accept that they were capable of doing that back then? Yesterday, I meant to go over the Thames Tunnel because it's just fascinating. All of these things are fascinating in ways that don't get satisfied. You read the narrative and you just go, what? That don't make no sense. When the railroad opened in 1848, it operated out of the Kinzie Street Depot on the west side of the Chicago River, near the corner of Canal and Kinzie Streets. Let's see what the Kinzie Street Depot is. What? I've never seen this happen before. So I click on the thing. This page has not been created yet. So why is it able to be clicked on? I've never seen that before. I've done a lot of these. Have you guys seen that before? Why make it so you can click on it only for there not to be a page that exists? That's just stupid. That is fucking stupid. Okay, in 1851, the railroad began to purchase the land needed to build a new station to the east of the river, and construction of this station at Wells Street took place during 1852 and 1853. They built that building in a year, less than maybe. No, the bridge was in like 8 months.
Oh, 9 months. It was 9 months.
Over the winter in Philadelphia. While also removing the previous bridge.
Underwater.
Huh?
Underwater.
Underwater what?
They were doing the bridge footings underwater.
No, this was a suspension bridge, so it went right. They had to remove all the footings from the previous bridge that was underwater. On February 16th, again, February, not February. You all say February. Why do you all say February?
Because teachers are stupid.
It's clearly spelled February. The R is silent. No, your intelligence is silent. You know what? And I said February up until like last year. You know, I never even thought about it. And then it don't, nobody even pointed it out to me. I think I saw it actually on, I was watching Chris Sewell's video, investor, collector, dealer, in that order. Or whatever it is, collector, dealer, investor, I don't know what it is. But I was watching his video and he said February, and I was like, why are you saying February like that? And I went to go write it in, and I was like, wait, it's populating wrong. All right. So on February 15th, 1865, the Galena and Chicago Union Railroad merged with the Chicago and Northwestern Railway. Of course they did. The first Wells Street station was destroyed in the Great Chicago Fire. Of course. Why would I ever think anything other than that? So basically, all of Chicago was built between 1871 and 50 years. And the thing is, prior to that, Chicago was a huge fucking city with lots of skyscrapers and shit that all got burnt down from fire. You know, concrete, marble, all that. Those buildings that stand the test of time were toppled by fire. Okay. Great Fire of 1871. A temporary wooden structure replaced it until in 1881 the Wells Street station opened in the same location. Oh wait, no. That building, the building that I was well, that building opened in 1881. My bad. It opened. It doesn't really say much about the construction, but it opened in 1881. My bad. The Wells Street station was bounded by the Chicago River to the south and west, Kinsey Street to the north, and Wells Street to the east, leaving no room for expansion. So that's why you just build up, right? I mean, leaving no room for expansion. They built a 4 million square foot building right there. What are you talking about? Furthermore, as both rail and ship traffic increased, the movable bridge over the river resulted in congestion. The movable bridge in 1800s resulted in congestion for all the people with their horses. Okay? Are we all together on the same page here? And everybody's like, fuck yeah, this all makes total sense. In 1911, the new Chicago and Northwestern Terminal opened with new elevated approaches branching from the old ones west of the river. The station remained for freight, and when the merchandise mart opened in 1930, using air rights above the railroad, air rights, owning the air, a new freight station served the mart and was connected by elevators to the Chicago Tunnel Company. See, I mean, I just keep finding myself going in these directions. And that's the history of this building, Wells Street Station. That's all I get from that. Aren't you a lot more informed at this point? Opened in 1853. So then, what? And closed June 3rd, 1911. So what about all those other things? It was rebuilt in 1871 and rebuilt in 1881. Oh no, it was rebuilt following the fire of 1771 or 1871. But what is this Chicago Tunnel Company? Under the streets of Chicago pre-1906. Look into Waterloo and National Guard offering the dredge of the river for free. Waterloo officials said no. You know, these stories, they don't surprise me. Do I believe any of them? Probably not. But, I mean, look at this. This is under the streets of Chicago, circa pre-1906. Who built all of that shit to begin with? What is this? All right, so 1902 system map, tunnels shown in black. Construction shafts are dots to the side of the tunnels. What year was this? 1902. In 1902, they had this much tunnel system underneath Chicago.
Would you buy a life insurance policy if you knew your rate increased every 5 years?
Look at this.
No, it makes sense.
Less than $1,000 in protection. Sadly, many policies that seniors buy today fail to mention.
I mean, and these are all huge buildings. All those rectangles, those are all huge buildings. Who did this?
On the senior care plan from Senior Life Insurance Company. The senior care plan guarantees
This, I think, is where the mart ends up being.
Yeah.
Right? Right here, this triangle thing, which was the rail station at the time, I guess. I mean, you can even see, like, here it says the Lakefront Park, right? So, at this point, all of that lakefront area has been tamed and concreted. What concrete were they using that could dry underwater back then? What? So then the next picture is from, okay, so this is 1910 system map, tunnel shown in black. Close to 60 miles of tunnel have been built by this time. Look at the black lines show the tunnel systems. They're building tunnels out underwater. How does the tunnel go around these points right here? Look at this. Look at this E shape. How?
No idea.
Underwater. They're building these underwater. Are we this stupid for real? Are you guys this stupid? I feel like I'm not. And I feel like it's really insulting to assume that I am. The Chicago Tunnel Company was the builder and operator of a 2-foot narrow gauge railway freight tunnel network under downtown Chicago. 2 feet? Does that look like 2 feet? Is that 2 feet?
No.
What do you mean it's a 2-foot narrow gauge railway freight tunnel network under downtown Chicago? So even still, if it was only 2 feet, what? They have miniature railways? What? I mean, what? How does all this work? This was regulated by the Interstate Commerce Commission as an interurban, even though it operated entirely under central Chicago. Did not carry passengers and was entirely underground. It inspired the construction of the London Post Office Railway. The Chicago one inspired the London one? What? Dates of operation, 1906 to 1959. Gee, that's convenient. So this amazing tunnel network wouldn't be a viable thing today? And it was abandoned. It was just abandoned. Track gauge, 2 feet. Length, 60 miles. Dude, leave your basement. Gotta love the stupid comments. Me and my 2-story basement here. Yep. If somebody is willing to say that level of stupidity that's so easily debunked that all I gotta do is just look out the window, can you really trust anything they say? Clearly they're dumb and willing to say anything to get attention. Now we're just going to jump right into the history. The city of Chicago granted the newly formed Illinois Telephone and Telegraph Company the rights to construct utility tunnels under the streets of Chicago in 1899. To carry its planned network of telephone cables. Initial plans for the tunnels called for filling them with phone cables, leaving a 6-foot by 14-inch passage for maintenance. Right? I mean, again, are we talking about the tunnel can't be 2 feet. Nobody would be able to do anything. Like, if a cat got down there and died on the fucking tracks, you're screwed. So are they saying it's 2 foot because the track width from one track to the other is 2 foot? Is that? I don't know. When the city refused to permit manholes throughout through which cable could be unreeled into the tunnels. Again, we're not going to talk about all those manholes and shit, right? The plans were changed to including rails for hauling cable spools through the tunnels. The city was largely unaware of the nature of the tunneling, and the first 16 miles of tunnel were excavated somewhat covertly. There are skyscrapers and shit above it. You have to be able to construct the tunnels to withstand the weight on top of them. These guys did 16 miles worth of tunnel covertly? With what? What magical tunnel device did they have? Oh, you guys, I'm going to stop. Because bits of everything, they don't want me talking about history. Right? Me talking about history is so bad. Please stop. Please stop. Talk about, like, Trump. Talk about something that I care about. Fucking stupid. Oh, the city was largely unaware. And the first working were excavated somewhat covertly, working from the basement of a saloon and carting away the spoil after midnight. Are we fucking serious here? Carting it away to where? Initially, the intended purpose of the narrow gauge railroad, that's another blue that I'm going to have to click on, below the telephone cables, was limited to hauling out excavation debris and hauling cable spools during the installation of telephone lines. I mean, again, we're just yada-yadaing over a lot of shit. Initially, it was just for that. Like, then how did we get the initial shit? I can't even figure out what the initial stuff is supposed to be. But in 1903, the company renegotiated its franchise to allow the use of this railroad for freight and mail service. Oh, so we're going to have another pneumatic tunnel system for mails, or for mail delivery?
They're stupid if they don't use the pigeons.
Well, while you think it's pigeons, and you've been told that pigeons are a realistic thing, it's not something nearly as ridiculous as pigeons. They had pneumatic tube systems underneath the city. Duh. In early 1905, the system was taken over by the Illinois Tunnel Company. So then how do I get to the fucking original, the builders? By this time, 26 miles of a projected 60 miles of tunnel had been completed. The actual construction work was subcontracted to the Illinois Telephone Construction Company under the management of George W. Jackson, 1861 to 1922. You don't get to actually click on George W. Jackson. That's why they give you the date of his life there, because there's literally no blue there. By 1904, the first round of financing for the tunnel system construction had largely been spent. A second round of financing was arranged by James Stellman of the National City Bank of New York. What? Why would the National City Bank of New York have anything to do with Chicago? Especially considering back then, like, banks and bank managers were like, go watch any, the Lucy Show, the Beverly Hillbillies, you name it. And the bank manager is an everyday character in the show. These people were the bank managers were like the presidents of the town. And they got whatever they wanted and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, what the fuck? What? By 1904, the first round of tunnel was banned, blah, blah, blah. With public support from E.H. Harriman, gotta love that. Here's our Harriman connection. Jacob H. Schiff and Patrick A. Valentine, all directors of that bank. With this financing, the Chicago Subway Company, incorporated in New Jersey, became a new holding company for the tunnel system. The Chicago Warehouse and Terminal Company was an affiliate formed in 1904 to construct and operate terminal facilities for interchanging freight with railroads and other carriers. Underground. This is wild. I mean, again, if you believe all of this shit, then you probably believe in submarines. It's pretty simple. If you're smart enough to question all of this narrative, you might want to question that narrative too. Because if you really start thinking about it, boy, does it not make much sense. The Chicago Warehouse blah, blah, was an affiliate. The Illinois Tunnel Company continued to expand the tunnel system and serve a growing customer base until 1908, when the employees moved to join the Amalgamated Association of Street and Electric Railway Cars, or Railway Employees, sorry. Gotta love those electric railway cars and shit in the 1908. The tunnel company refused to reorganize or refused to recognize the union and began firing union members. Despite the intervention of Congressman William Lorimer, all 260 employees went on strike on May 9th. The company hired strikebreakers and refused to rehire any of the strikers. So, when I'm looking into the history of buildings and shit like this This is literally what you find all the time. Right? You will consistently find that you're going to get a whole bunch of details so that when you walk away from this narrative, you think they had a pretty detailed narrative. A whole bunch of nothing details that you won't remember. But you'll remember that it was details. So then you start thinking and you go, oh yeah, that construction, if you ever get brought back up again, oh yeah, that tunnel, no, I looked it up one time. No, it was pretty detailed. But there's no details here. This is all yada yada story bullshit that you're not going to get any sort of satisfaction from any of this. You're not going to learn anything from any of this. Like it's and all of these are like it's written for book reports. It's written so that when you're junior high, high school, college, whatever, when they get assigned a report do a report on this or do a report on that. You can then go look at your Wikipedia and you can just reword it a little bit differently, but you basically have a book report here. And when the teacher goes, well, I wanted a report on the construction, you go, well, this is what was given. This is the information I'm given. Nothing can be done. But the teachers aren't going to even do that anyway. Teachers aren't trying to rock the boat. Teachers are trying to get that pension. They're trying to make that horrible job they have worth it because they get to retire early and whatever. I couldn't stand being a teacher. All the shitty brats I got to deal with, plus the curriculum I have to teach. Where are you going? Huh? Just wear condoms. That's all I can say. Be safe. We don't need you coming home pregnant. Because again, in the when I want to look up the history of the tunnel company and how they built this thing, I give a shit about the company refusing to hire back any of the strikers. This dude is a hazard to the public. I am hazardous to the public because I'm reading the history and asking questions. Oh my God, call the police. Somebody call the police. Have them come arrest me. I'm so hazardous. Yeah, police. This guy is asking questions that I'm not smart enough to ask or answer. So, can you stop him? I could go to some other YouTube page, but I don't want to. I want to watch this guy, but I want him to talk about other things. That level of stupid, I can't relate to. Like, there's lots of things that I can relate to, or at least can empathize with. Look, if I'm a bad guy who likes fucking with children, well then fucking with children makes sense, right? It's gross and disgusting and you should be killed. But if that's what you do, that's what you do. What is the purpose of being a dumbass troll other than to make me look better? Such a strange bunch of shit. Right? These fucking James Webb Telescope, that shit is the biggest joke they've pulled on us in a long time. James Webb and the Lagrange points and all that. I've done plenty of talks about that shit, and it's amazing how stupid we are. It's amazing what, what we're willing to believe out of sheer stupidity.
Based on the granulation tissue and the degree of healing, I'd say this happened 3
How much you want to bet Ben is a dumb J because he doesn't understand what's being said and he thinks that his comments make him look good. Now, if you open up the books on Israel, that demonizes Israel. Good old Benji. Those people are the dumbest fucking people in the world. They are not in charge. They do not run things because they're so much smarter than us. It's because they're so stupid and they're willing to do the worst of the worst things, like starve an entire population, like drop bombs from planes and then claim to be the victim. Nobody does that shit. Only dumb Jays pick fights and then call the cops. But that's what they do. So I'd be willing to bet good old Benji's a dumb J. All right, the tunnel company ran into a problem with part of its planned expansion. In November 1906, the Chicago Board of Local Improvements announced it was considering widening Halsted Street between Chicago Avenue and 22nd Street. 300 property owners on Halsted, represented by the law firm of Adler and... I mean, seriously. What the fuck does this have to do with the construction of this fucking tunnel? I'm finding out like the dumb J law firms are making their way into our history just so we can what? Remember their names? They don't matter. Give a shit about these dumb J fucking attorneys and shit. What the fuck does that have to do with anything that has to do with this history? Like, this is the shit you got to pay attention to. Like I always tell you, look at, even with the trolls aren't going to come out here and be like, yep, we are Israeli black ops, we're Team Jorge, we're, yes, we are those dumb Jays he's talking about. They're not going to come out and say it. You have to read between the lines. The government isn't going to come out and give you some signed document. Yes, well, there's a conspiracy to keep you stupid, and we don't want you knowing these things. Like, what documentation? What does it take for you to see the truth? Somebody have to hold your face. Look, motherfucker! Is that what it is? Like, how do you look up in the sky and see planes on certain days leaving huge streaks? The number of planes just is not like at my house. The Detroit Metro Airport is about 10, 15 miles south of me. I'd say about 90% of the chemtrails that I see go west to east. Another 7% go east to west. And maybe every once in a while, you'll get one that goes north to south. It just so happens to be that Selfridge Air Force Base is about 40 miles east of me. And the amount of planes that are flying in these aren't like if these are all planes all headed east, then they're flying in international air. They're going to Canada somewhere. All of these people are just going to Canada, huh? And it always works out that right around 3 o'clock when the kids start getting out of school, a huge number of these planes just start flying east. They're not registered or anything like that. You can't really see them on the flight trackers. But just plane, just over and over and over and over and over again. And you can see that and go, man, nothing's going on there. Oh, that looks like normal shit. I know I don't see this every day, but yeah, that makes sense. Oh yeah, look at all those things that they're driving. Like, you go to airplane show, you go to like I don't know what they're called, airplane festivals or whatever they're fucking called, and you watch them do skywriting. And you go, wow, that's cool, because normally planes don't do that. But then when you see planes doing it in regular life, and those streaks don't dissipate, they turn into these big ass, they just get bigger and bigger, and they just spread and spread and spread. You see that and you go, yeah, makes sense. Totally makes sense. Why would you ever go to an air show? Air show, that's what it is. Why would you ever go to an air show if all you got to do is look up and you can see them writing pretty lines in the sky? I like when they make the planes go upside down. It's just amazing how stupid people are. So anyway, these dumb Jays, known as Armstein and Lear LLP, opposed the widening of the street because it would interfere with their business, and the cost would result in burdensome assessments. Because they were cheap. This could make life better for everyone. This could open up the lanes, less congestion, less this, that, make commerce better for everyone. But it is going to cost you a little bit of money, and you're going to have to, redo some shit. But in the long run, you'll make more money. Now, this is burdensome now, and I don't like it, and I'm not paying for anything. We founded this building like this. You guys founded yours like that. I liked it. I liked it the way it was. I liked it the way I founded it. Well, these aren't modern day black people, so I guess it's not as good. I'm so embarrassed. I hate it, man. I hate what's been done to my people and how stupid we sound. God, it's embarrassing. Out in these streets. I'm strong in these streets. My mother and my brother think so. Attorney Charles Lederer charged that there was graft connection with the proposition to widen the street, and that if this was done, the scheme was then to utilize the street to connect the tunnel with the Chicago stockyards so that it would have access to the railroads. I mean, again, what the fuck? Who gives a shit? Literally no, there's no information on how they did any of this. How they created these tunnels, shaped the tunnels, fortified the tunnels so that they could hold the skyscrapers above them. What they did to prevent the 38 billion pounds of water from collecting in these tunnels. I mean, there's so many questions that are just not going to be answered here. Bankruptcy and reorganization. Starts off just goofy. By 1909, think about that. By 1909, what world did we live in 1909? Model A cars are just barely out when they start. When like 1905, first Model A or whatever. Model T, I don't remember the fucking details. We didn't even have we just barely had cars. Submarines had been around for a while, but we weren't good at it. Didn't have airplanes and shit. Yet we were a tunneling group, man. We could tunnel with the best of them. By 1909, the cost of construction had bankrupted the Illinois Tunnel Company. By this time, it was estimated that $30 million had been spent on building and operating the tunnel. $30 million in 1909. Come on, guys. This makes sense to you? This all makes sense to you. Look, it makes as much sense as these dumb J's in my comments, right? At the end of the day, who's going to be upset about me talking like this? Who's going to get upset about me looking into the Chicago tunnel? Seriously. The idea that anybody would be on here talking shit. Dude, what are you looking up tunnels for? Yeah, I don't like you looking up tunnels. Do you know how stupid that is? Do you know how stupid you have to be on that side of the argument? You could be doing anything else in the world. You could be watching anything. You could be watching porn. It's your phone. You could be watching porn. And instead, you're here and you're mad because I'm looking up construction stuff. I'm looking into old buildings. Don't you look up old buildings. Oh, this is fucking hilarious. Who the fuck is going to do that? What regular person who obviously they have a job. You need to get a job. They're clearly at work. And even though they're at work, they're on my feed angry because I'm looking into this kind of stuff. How dare you look up the Chicago Tunnel Company, you jerk. You jerk. Oh, gosh. Why are you looking into this stuff? We provide you with all sorts of distractions. Why aren't you distracted by the things we try to get you to be distracted by? Like, it's fucking stupid. It's so telling. That's the thing. You just have to look at it for what it is. You know? Don't go any sort of crazy conspiracy, all that shit. Just look at it for what it is. You honestly think there are real people that could be doing anything else, and instead they're here and they disagree with me and they're mad at me and want me to stop talking about these things. Good old Benji. Benji, come eat your raw fish. Come on. Come eat your locks. Let me curl your stupid sideburns. I mean, it's just wild, right? Like on a lot of days, you know, I'm talking about how dumb the Jays are constantly. I'm talking about all the Israeli stuff and the genocides and all that stuff. And, you know, again, I mean, it never does make sense to me because I'm usually talking about, you know, killing off the pedos and getting rid of the Jays. So I never really understand who's upset to begin with, but especially on days like today. It's just fucking hilarious. Oh, Naomi's here. Naomi's one of those. She's a lifer now. This is part 38, 39, whatever, and a lot of them have 2 parts. You can go back. I bet you she's on 80% of my recent videos. Mad, mad, mad. Stop talking about killing pedos. Stop it. You're putting us in danger. I mean, think about how stupid this shit is. 30 million had been spent. The receiver's sale was completed in 1912. The receiver's sale? I don't even know what that means. Like, the lead up is by 1909, the cost of the construction had bankrupted the Illinois Tunnel Company. By this time, it was estimated that 30 million had been spent on building and operating the tunnel. The receiver's sale, the fuck is that? Was completed in 1912 with the Chicago Tunnel Company, a wholly owned subsidiary of the Chicago Utilities Company, acquiring all assets of the former company and its affiliates. the Chicago Warehouse and Terminal Company, and the Illinois Telephone and Telegraph Company. Well, that's quite the acquisition. In 1913, the Chicago Tunnel Company agreed to sell its telephone operations to the American Telephone and Telegraph Company. It's funny, too. We always talk about, like, they took our job, blah, 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 like that shit. It's amazing how many jobs used to exist. I went to Meijer yesterday, and the self-checkout area has been expanded tremendously. There's probably only like 8 lanes open for, normal checkout, and only 3 of those lanes are actually open. And it's like, these are jobs that regular people used to be able to, like, there are people that worked at the grocery store. They were a full-time cashier. They were a bagger, but the full-time cashiers or the managers, these people had houses. These people had cars. They paid for a decent life working at a grocery store. All those jobs are gone. I've seen all this new tech where all the lawn mowers are automatic, so that now somebody can have a fleet of, they can pull up to your house and push a button, and a bunch of the cars, a bunch of little automated robot lawn mowers go out and cut the grass, eliminating regular people jobs. These are things we don't even talk. There are people whose fathers, grandfathers, whatever, were elevator operators their entire lives. And they lived a good life. And they operated the elevator. Think about how many telephone operators lost their jobs. That whole community, like thousands and thousands of people lost their jobs because of that. Think about this tunnel company and all these companies that were just listed. The Chicago Company, the Chicago Utilities Company, the Chicago Warehouse and Terminal Company, the Illinois Telegraph and Telephone Company. Think about all those hundreds, thousands of people that had jobs that are obsolete now. And it's not like there are a whole bunch of new jobs coming up. Matter of fact, most of the lower level jobs are the ones that are being eliminated. And the reality is, it should be that way. The machines should be doing all the shitty jobs. Our cars would be made much better if it was all automated, other than, a few things. But because we have to have that illusion that there's a good job for people like that out there at the automotive companies and all that. I mean, if they got rid of all those jobs, you know how bad, how shit would crash? All those automotive people just suddenly lost their jobs because, they were like, all right, we're going to bring computers in. And they're going to. It's going to happen. But we just don't think about all these things. In 1913, the Chicago Tunnel Company agreed to sell its telephone operations to American Telephone and Telegraph Company, although regulatory approval delayed the actual sale until 1916. By 1920, all telephone cables had been removed from the tunnels. And strewn up across the city, up in the air? Does that make sense? That's going backwards. Underground tunnels make a lot more sense. And yet we've regressed. And then you see these pictures of, like, the 20s and the 30s where, you have like telephone lines and all that shit just 30 deep, and they're just strewn all over the place. Why did we go to that? That doesn't seem like that makes much sense. And Again, this has nothing to do with how they built any of this shit. Just wild. Drinking tea. Can you imagine being one of those insecure guys who, like, somebody says drinking tea makes you soft, so you go, oh shit. Well, tea is delicious, and it's but I'm not gonna drink it anymore because I don't want people to think I'm soft. Can you imagine being that insecure? But guess, that's dumbass Jay Benji. And this is all they do, guys. They can't actually come up. There's nothing they're gonna come up with that's gonna debunk or any. Again, these guys are mad. Benji's mad because I'm looking into the history of telephone companies and the tunnel networks. Yeah, like regular Americans, you're gonna be bothered by this, huh? Hey, pedophiles, kill yourself.